Hey everyone, Bryan Lebo here with your April Las Vegas update video. Now, the past few months have been very quiet in Las Vegas and the sales numbers have been down substantially. You weren't seeing multiple offers and some neighborhoods have actually gone down in value for the first time in years. And then something changed about 3 weeks ago. Now, I honestly wish I could tell you why, but I can't find any logical argument other than it's springtime, baby. Over the past 3 weeks, I've seen homes that were listed for months without any offers suddenly receive multiple offers. And we're not just talking about areas like Green Valley and Summerlin. All over, I'm seeing a much greater activity level. Now, this is fantastic news as we transition ourselves into the peak sales season for real estate. Now, before we discuss this further, let's break down the market as we usually do. First, by checking in on our notice of defaults, then checking our current inventory levels, seeing what our current inventory consists of, and finally, comparing our sales last month to March of 2013. Okay, first up is the NODs or Notice of Defaults. We look at this number because this illustrates our future foreclosure rates and depicts what amount of foreclosure activity is actually occurring. As you can see on the screen now, the banks filed a boatload of default notices back in September in order to beat tough legislation that followed in October. Now, since October, we've crept back up from only 175 to last month's total of 423. Now, to give you some perspective, even though this looks like progress, last March we had 1,561 filings, and that was low compared to what we used to file. Since typically it's at least 6 months before these homes are foreclosed on, it's pretty fair to say that we won't be seeing many foreclosures this year at all. Okay, next up is the current inventory levels. As you can see on the screen right now, the inventory levels have been brutally consistent this entire year. We're sitting on only about 6,500 homes. Now, technically, this is a very low amount of inventory, and that would define our market as a seller's market. Now, however, demand this year has been down almost 20%. So even though inventory is low, our market has stabilized due to an equally lower demand. Since we're not going to see a significant amount of foreclosures unless investors start dumping properties onto the market soon, it's fair to presume that inventory should stay consistent or even decrease if the demand increases. Okay, next is our breakdown of current inventory. 14% of listings are short sales, while only 7% of listings are foreclosures. This leaves 79% of our listings as normal or, traditional sales. Back in January, this number was only 75%. Now, this is great for buyers since there's little need for them to focus on short sales when we've got an abundance of traditional sales out there. However, for those that are trying to short sell their homes, this makes it much more difficult if the home in question isn't, all that amazing. So why wait 3 to 6 months to buy a short sale when almost 9 out of 10 homes can be negotiated and closed within 30 days? All right, next, we're going to talk about last month's sales. It was mind-blowing that in January and February, we couldn't even sell 2,000 homes. Well, in March, we finally broke through the barrier and sold 2,368 homes in the Vegas Valley. While that sounds fantastic, the truth is that we're supposed to start selling more homes once we get towards this springtime. Even though we sold 2,368 homes last month, last year we sold 2,775 homes in March. So even though sales went up, we're still down 15% from last March. So how do we explain all this? The answer is actually pretty simple. On March 19th, the CEO of Blackstone Group did an interview on CNBC. If you don't know, Blackstone Group is the largest national hedge fund that was purchasing homes in Las Vegas. Well, anyhow, he came out and essentially said that they aren't going to purchase any more homes since they feel that the market has already plateaued. While this is news to some, you know I've been saying this for many months. Because the prices soared so much in Las Vegas, many investors have simply just walked away. Since the cap rates, they don't really pencil out that much anymore. So when you figure that Blackstone alone was buying about 2,000 homes a year in Las Vegas, that's about 6.5% of our total sales. Add in the rest of the hedge funds and small to mid-level investors, and you easily have 15 to 20% right there. So the bottom line is that the reason sales are down is because investors aren't really buying like they used to. Overall, this is fantastic for our market though. We needed to slow down these crazy price increases so that middle-class families could still afford to purchase homes. If less investors are buying, this means that middle-class buyers have less cash offers that they have to compete with, and it provides them a greater chance to actually own a home. Additionally, less investors means better neighborhoods, because so many investors purchased over these last 3 years, many of our neighborhoods have been transformed into basically glorified apartment complexes as a result. Okay, so let's wrap up all this real quick. NODs are flat. We aren't going to see many foreclosures this year. Our current inventory is stable at 6,500, and only about 1 out of 10 homes are short sales. Sales are down from last year, but that's all right because we've just shed ourselves of investors who are detrimental to our own neighborhoods. Now back to what I opened with. These past 3 weeks, I've seen sales seemingly heat up. Historically, our best months are March through June. Last year, we only sold 150 more homes from March to April. So considering demand feels much greater right now, I'm expecting this month's sales to be very close to last year's sales. If this ends up true next month, this does illustrate that we have a fantastic and stable market for the time being after all. Especially since we lost all the investors, this means that real people are coming out and picking up the slack. If this happens, we shouldn't see prices fall much more this year, unless, of course, investors start unloading their properties and greatly increase our supply. Now, this isn't really likely now to happen at the same time. If our market continued to have low demand and prices continued to fall, then investors might get skittish, and that could seriously make for a volatile market. So, at least for the next few months, I don't see prices going down much at all, and certainly not increasing. If all works out, we should simply have a nice year of relatively flat home values. Okay, as always, please click here to subscribe. Thank you so much for supporting and watching, and have a fantastic April, everyone.